The person you love opened up to their mother about you for the first time. And shockingly, she cried. Beloved, the person you love finally spoke to their mother about you. Not casually. Not, yeah, I still think about them sometimes. Not, we just weren't right for each other. For the first time since your relationship ended, your soulmate sat across from their mother and told her what actually happened between you. And beloved, their mother cried. Not because she hates you. Not because she begged your soulmate to forget you. And not because your soulmate announced they are running back to you tomorrow. She cried because she discovered something she had believed about you for years was completely wrong. It began with an old family recipe book. Something ordinary. Something you may have forgotten. The book had belonged to several generations of your soulmate's family. Not expensive. Not some valuable inheritance. Its real value was sentimental. Recipes written by grandparents. Corrections in different handwriting. Little stains from years of cooking. Pages added. Ingredients crossed out. Measurements changed. And when you and your soulmate had once become serious, their mother had made a copy specifically for you. Not the original. A new handmade version. She copied family recipes into it herself. Then left several blank pages near the back. At the top of one blank section, she had written, "For whatever we add next." Beloved, you understood what that meant. It was not just a cookbook. It was her quiet way of saying, I can imagine you becoming part of this family. Maybe she handed it to you one afternoon after dinner. You looked surprised. This is for me? She smiled. Unless you plan on stealing mine. You laughed. Perhaps she said, you keep asking how I make everything. Now you can stop bothering me. Beloved. Maybe your soulmate teased, she likes you more than me now. Everyone laughed. But later, when you and your soulmate were alone, you held that book differently. Carefully. Perhaps your soulmate noticed. What? You smiled. Nothing. No, what? Then maybe you said, your mother gave me family recipes. Your soulmate laughed. So? You looked at them. So that's a big deal. Beloved, you understood the emotional meaning before your soulmate did. And perhaps that frightened them. Because around that same time, the relationship between you was becoming more serious. More real. There were no longer only dates. There were families. Traditions. Future holidays. Practical conversations. Questions like, where would we live someday? What would commitment actually look like? How would we make decisions? And beloved, your soulmate loved you. But something strange happened every time love became concrete. Feelings? They could handle feelings. Late-night declarations? Easy. Missing you? Easy. Saying, you're my person. Beautiful. But when love began appearing in actual life, a drawer for your things, plans 6 months away, their mother giving you a family cookbook, your soulmate became scared. Perhaps you noticed. After that dinner, instead of feeling happy, your soulmate became quiet. You asked, "What happened?" "Nothing. You've been weird since we left. I'm tired." Beloved. You knew there was more. Maybe eventually they said, "My mother moves too fast." You frowned. What? The book. You looked down at it. What about it? It's just a lot. Beloved. You were confused. She gave me recipes. You know what she means. You smiled slightly. I thought it was sweet. Your soulmate became more tense. I know. So what's wrong? Silence. Perhaps everybody is acting like this is already decided. Beloved. There. You stared. What is already decided? Our future. Maybe you became hurt. I didn't ask her to give me this. I know. Then why are you upset with me? I'm not upset with you. But beloved, you felt it. A beautiful gesture had somehow become pressure. Maybe you put the cookbook away carefully and said, "Okay." Your soulmate noticed your face. Don't do that. Do what? Get upset. You laughed sadly. You're upset because your mother made me feel welcome, and now somehow I'm supposed to make you feel better about it. Beloved. Perhaps your soulmate apologized. Maybe they held you. Said, "It's not you." And they meant it. It was not you. It was what the book represented. Permanence. Integration. Being known publicly as someone building a future with you. Your soulmate could no longer keep your relationship floating in a private emotional space where every day could be reconsidered. Real life was beginning to catch up with the feelings. And beloved, that was exactly where your soulmate often became afraid. Still, you kept the book. You used it. Maybe one Sunday you tried one of their mother's recipes. It went terribly. Your soulmate tasted it. Paused. You stared. Well? They swallowed bravely. I love you. You narrowed your eyes. That bad? They laughed. It's aggressively salty. You grabbed the book. The recipe says 2 tablespoons. Your soulmate nearly choked. Teaspoons. Beloved. Maybe you both laughed until you cried. You wrote beside the ingredient, teaspoons. Do not destroy family. Perhaps your soulmate's mother later saw the note and laughed too. Maybe she wrote underneath, I assumed common sense. You wrote, dangerous assumption. Beloved. That book became something small and warm between you and the family. Maybe you added one recipe of your own. Nothing fancy. Something your family made. Or a dessert your soulmate loved. Perhaps you were still adjusting it. The first attempt too dry. Second better. On the blank page, you had written ingredients in pencil because you were not finished. At the top, version 3, almost right. Beloved. You planned to perfect it. Maybe your soulmate's mother had once tasted version 2 and said, "Need something?" You asked, "What?" She smiled. "That's your problem." You laughed. And perhaps you told her, "Next time I'll get it right." She answered, "I'll be waiting." Beloved, there was supposed to be a next time. That is why what happened later hurt so much. Because your relationship began deteriorating. Not because of the recipe book. The deeper patterns were already there. Your soulmate loved you deeply but struggled when love required consistency. Perhaps you wanted more clarity. More partnership. Maybe you were tired of hearing beautiful words followed by uncertain behavior. Your soulmate felt pressured. You felt unsecured. One person withdrew. The other reached. Then roles reversed. Maybe the same conversations kept returning. You would say, "I need to know we're building something." Your soulmate would answer, "We are." Then when you asked what exactly? Silence. Perhaps, why can't we just let things happen? Beloved. You tried. But letting things happen often meant allowing your soulmate to decide the pace while you absorbed the uncertainty. Eventually you began asking for something more concrete. Not marriage tomorrow. Not a dramatic promise. Just, are you actually choosing this relationship? Your soulmate would say, "I love you." You answered, "I know." Again and again. Love was never the missing part. The fear was. And beloved, as the relationship became shakier, every symbol of permanence began feeling heavier to your soulmate. A photo. Something you left at their home. Future plans. And the cookbook. One evening, after a particularly difficult conversation, your soulmate saw it sitting in your kitchen. Maybe open to that unfinished recipe. Version 3. And something inside them panicked. Because beloved, that book showed a future your soulmate was no longer sure they had the courage to promise. Perhaps they stared at it. You noticed. What? Your soulmate asked, "Can you give that back?" You thought you misheard. What? The book. Beloved. Silence. You looked at it. Then at them. Your mother gave this to me. I know. Then why are you asking for it? Your soulmate struggled. Perhaps, I just think you should give it back. You felt something cold move through your body. Why? Because, long pause. Because if we don't work out, I don't want her asking me why you still have something like that. Beloved. Imagine hearing that while the relationship had not even officially ended. You stared. Maybe, so we're already planning the return of family belongings? That's not what I mean. It sounds exactly like what you mean. Your soulmate became frustrated. You're making this dramatic. Beloved. Maybe you laughed from disbelief. It's a cookbook. Exactly. Then why do you need it back? Silence. Because it was not just a cookbook. Both of you knew. Perhaps you said, "Do you understand what you're asking me to do?" Your soulmate replied, "I just need things to feel less complicated right now." There. Less complicated. Maybe you looked at the unfinished recipe. Then shut the book. Slowly. You said, "Fine." Your soulmate immediately looked guilty. "I'm sorry." You nodded. "Okay." Beloved. Perhaps they hated that okay. Because it meant you were too tired to argue. You handed them the book. Then said, "Tell your mother thank you for giving it to me." Pause. "And tell her I'm sorry I never got the last recipe right." Beloved. Your soulmate's eyes filled. Maybe they said, "You can tell her yourself." You looked at them. Then, "Can I?" Silence. Because by then, things had become so uncertain you did not know whether you were still welcome inside their family life. Perhaps your soulmate said, "I'll tell her." Beloved. They never did. That is the first truth their mother learned today. But there is more. When your soulmate brought that book home, their mother saw it. Maybe it was sitting on the kitchen counter. She recognized it instantly. "Why is that here?" Your soulmate froze. Maybe said, "They gave it back." Beloved. Technically true. But missing the most important information. Their mother's face changed. "They gave it back?" "Yes." "Why?" Your soulmate looked away. "Maybe, things aren't good between us." The mother touched the cover. "Perhaps hurt. But I gave this to them." "I know." "Did they not want it?" Beloved. This was the moment. Your soulmate could have said, "No." They loved it. "I asked them to return it." Instead, they said, "I don't know." There. 3 words. Enough to create an entirely different story. Their mother looked at the cookbook and interpreted the return as something from you. Maybe rejection. Maybe a message, "I do not want to belong here anymore." Perhaps she became quiet. Then said, "I understand." But beloved, she did not understand. And your soulmate let her misunderstand. Why? Because correcting her required another confession, "I am the one pulling away. I asked for the book because I am scared. I am dismantling signs of a future before I have had the courage to tell my partner whether the future is ending." That truth would have made your soulmate look responsible. The vague version was easier. They gave it back. So that became the family memory. Maybe their mother felt embarrassed. She thought perhaps she had overstepped by giving you something so personal. Perhaps she said later, "I shouldn't have given it to them so soon." Your soulmate could have corrected her. They did not. Maybe, "Don't worry about it." Beloved. Their mother blamed herself. Then perhaps slowly blamed you too. Not maliciously. But she thought, maybe they never valued what I gave. Maybe they were never as serious about this family as I believed. Perhaps after the breakup, someone asked about you. Their mother said, "I think it's better this way." Maybe they returned something very meaningful before things were even officially over. Beloved. She built an interpretation around incomplete information. And your soulmate knew. That is what makes today's confession so important. But back then, the relationship between you and your soulmate continued falling apart. Maybe a few weeks later, you finally left. Perhaps one of your final conversations included a sentence like, "You started removing me from your future before you had the courage to tell me whether you still wanted one with me." Beloved. Your soulmate thought you were talking about emotional distance. You were. But perhaps part of you was thinking about that book too. A quiet symbol. Your place removed before the breakup had even fully arrived. Maybe you said, "I feel like I'm being slowly erased." Your soulmate replied, "That's not what I'm doing." But beloved, in some ways, it was. Not because they hated you. Because erasing symbols felt easier than making a decision. Eventually you walked away. Years passed. Your soulmate's mother never asked many questions. Perhaps that is how their family works. They love deeply but do not force emotional conversations. Maybe she once asked, "What really happened?" Your soulmate answered, "We wanted different things." Clean. Simple. Perhaps it became unhealthy. Maybe true in part. She did not push. But every once in a while, your name came up indirectly. Maybe a dish you loved. A place you all went. And their mother would become slightly quiet. Your soulmate noticed. But still said nothing. The cookbook remained somewhere in the house. A drawer. Kitchen shelf. Maybe their mother could not bring herself to use it. Because it had been made for you. Perhaps once she considered throwing it away. Did not. There was something strange about destroying an object created with affection just because the relationship ended. So it stayed. Years. Until today. Maybe their mother is reorganizing the kitchen. Nothing dramatic. She finds the cookbook in the back of a cabinet. Dust on the top. She opens it. Flips through familiar recipes. Then she reaches the handwritten section. Beloved, your handwriting. The destroyed family joke. Teaspoons. Do not destroy family. Her own response, I assumed common sense. Maybe she smiles. Then turns another page. And sees, version 3, almost right. Ingredients in pencil. Corrections. A little note beside one ingredient. She says this needs more spice. She's probably right. Beloved. The mother stops. Because perhaps she had forgotten you had written inside it. She turns another page. Maybe there is a tiny grocery calculation. A temperature change. A line, try again Sunday. That Sunday never happened. Beloved. And maybe something about seeing your unfinished participation after all these years affects her. Your soulmate walks into the kitchen. Finds their mother holding the book. She asks, "Do you remember this?" Your soulmate freezes. Yes. She smiles sadly. I was stupid to give it away. Beloved. Your soulmate frowns. What? To them. Pause. I think I made them uncomfortable. Your soulmate's stomach drops. Why would you think that? Their mother looks surprised. They gave it back. There. The old lie. Not technically a lie. Something worse in its own way. An omission that had lived long enough to become history. Your soulmate looks at the book. Then at their mother. For years, they have avoided this exact moment. Perhaps they could avoid it again. Say, yeah, things were complicated. But beloved, something has changed in your soulmate. Maybe after years of growth, they no longer want to preserve comfort by sacrificing truth. So they say, they didn't give it back because they wanted to. Their mother becomes still. What? Your soulmate swallows. Then, I ask them to. Silence. Perhaps their mother thinks she misheard. You asked for it back? Yes. Why? Beloved. There. The question your soulmate can no longer avoid. They sit down. Maybe say, because I was scared. Their mother looks confused. Of a cookbook? Your soulmate almost laughs from shame. No, pause. Of what it meant. Beloved. Their mother pulls out a chair. What did it mean? Your soulmate says, that you saw them as part of the family. I did. I know. And that scared you? Beloved. Your soulmate looks down. Then, yes. Their mother is stunned. Maybe, but you loved them. I did. Then why would that scare you? Your soulmate takes a long breath. And beloved, for the first time, they actually open up. Not the clean version. The real one. Because loving them privately was easier than building a life that proved I loved them. Silence. Their mother says nothing. Your soulmate continues, they were starting to become part of everything. Family. Plans. My decisions. Pause. And every time something made the future feel real, I panicked. Beloved. Maybe their mother asks, did they know that? Eventually. What did they say? Your soulmate remembers you. Then, they kept asking me whether I wanted the relationship or whether I only wanted them when nothing permanent was being asked of me. Their mother looks pained. And? Your soulmate says, I kept telling them I loved them. Mother, that wasn't the question. Beloved. Your soulmate looks up. Because that is exactly what you used to say. Perhaps they laugh sadly. No, it wasn't. Then their mother asks, did they want to keep the book? Your soulmate's eyes fill. Yes. Beloved. How do you know? They asked why I wanted it back. Pause. And before they gave it to me, they told me to thank you. Their mother's face changes. Your soulmate continues, they said they were sorry they never got the last recipe right. Beloved, their mother looks down at the unfinished page. Version 3. Almost right. Try again Sunday. And her eyes fill. Perhaps she touches the pencil marks. Then whispers, you never told me that. Your soulmate shakes their head. No, why? And beloved, here is the part that makes her cry. Your soulmate says, because if I told you, you would have known they didn't reject us. Pause. You would have known I was the one pushing them out. There. The mother begins crying. Not dramatic screaming. Just tears. Perhaps she looks at your handwriting. Then at her child. And says, I spent years thinking they didn't want this family. Your soulmate whispers, I know. Maybe the mother becomes angry. You knew I thought that? Yes. And you never corrected me? Your soulmate's voice breaks. No, beloved. She wipes her face. Why? Your soulmate gives the real answer, because your version made me look less guilty. Silence. There. No blaming fear alone. Responsibility. Perhaps, if you thought they returned it because they were done with us, then I didn't have to tell you that I had started dismantling the relationship before I was brave enough to end it. Beloved. The mother cries harder. Maybe because she remembers you. At her table. Laughing. Trying recipes. Asking questions. Maybe she had once wondered afterward, was all of that fake? Now she realizes, no. Perhaps you had actually been taking the family seriously. Maybe more seriously than your soulmate could tolerate at the time. She turns back to your unfinished recipe. Then says, they were going to finish this. Your soulmate nods. Yes. How do you know? Because they kept testing it. Maybe, they wanted to make it for you without asking for help. Their mother laughs through tears. Stubborn. Your soulmate smiles sadly. Yes. Beloved. Maybe she asks, did I do anything to make them feel unwelcome? Your soulmate immediately says, no, then corrects themselves. At least not from anything they ever told me. Good. No pretending to know your full experience. But, they liked you. A pause. They were scared you didn't like them enough. The mother looks shocked. Why? Maybe your soulmate smiles faintly. Because they cared. There. Perhaps their mother cries again. Not because she needs you back. Because she has discovered she was grieving a rejection that never happened. Maybe she says, I thought I embarrassed myself. Your soulmate asks, what? Giving them this. Pause. I thought I had welcomed someone who didn't actually want to belong. Beloved. Your soulmate's eyes fill. Then, they wanted to belong. There. Maybe, that was part of why I got scared. Their mother stares. Explain that to me. Your soulmate tries. Perhaps says, they didn't want to disappear into our family. They weren't trying to rush anything. But they were capable of treating our relationship like it had a future. Pause. And I was still treating the future like something I could reconsider whenever I got overwhelmed. Beloved. The mother sits quietly. Then asks, was that why they left? Your soulmate answers carefully. It was part of it. Maybe, they said they felt like I was slowly removing them from my life so I wouldn't have to experience one big ending. Beloved. Their mother looks at the book. And suddenly the symbolism is obvious. Your soulmate literally removed something connecting you to the family before the relationship officially ended. Perhaps she says, you did. Your soulmate nods. I know. Then maybe the mother asks, what else did I misunderstand? Beloved. Dangerous question. Your soulmate could protect themselves. Instead they tell her. Not every intimate detail. Your privacy matters. But the parts concerning her perception of you. Maybe they say, you thought they hated family gatherings near the end. The mother nods. They stopped coming. Your soulmate looks ashamed. Sometimes they didn't come because I asked them not to. What? I was overwhelmed. I didn't want everyone treating us like we were moving toward marriage. Pause. So I told them it would be easier if I went alone. Beloved. The mother becomes stunned. Perhaps she had interpreted your absence as distance. Maybe said afterward, they never come anymore. Your soulmate had shrugged. Again letting a wrong story form. The mother asks, did they know I was upset? I don't think so. Beloved. Maybe, and when they did come, they tried harder because they thought you didn't fully like them. The mother covers her mouth. That hurts. Perhaps she says, I liked them. I know. Did you tell them? Your soulmate looks down. Not enough. There. Beloved. The mother asks, why were you doing this? Not accusing. Trying to understand. And perhaps your soulmate finally says something they have never said aloud, because I wanted the relationship to feel less real without actually losing them. Pause. There. Maybe the mother whispers, that's impossible. Your soulmate nods. I know now. Beloved. They wanted you emotionally close, but structurally less integrated. Love me. Stay. But perhaps do not become too connected to my family. Do not make too many long-term plans. Do not create symbols I will have to grieve if this fails. Your soulmate was trying to reduce the potential pain of loss while keeping the relationship. And in doing so, they made you experience loss while you were still there. Perhaps their mother says, you were preparing for the breakup before they knew there was one. Your soulmate's face changes. That sentence hurts. Then, yes. Beloved. Maybe she asks, did you want to end it? Your soulmate thinks. Then, I wanted the fear to stop. Pause. And I kept confusing that with wanting the relationship to stop. There. Maybe your soulmate says, I loved them. But whenever I imagined how much losing them would hurt, I started reducing how much of my life included them. Beloved. That is heartbreaking. The mother looks at them. Then says, so you hurt them early so you wouldn't hurt as much later. Your soulmate's eyes fill. Yes. And did it work? Long silence. No, beloved. Of course not. Perhaps mother closes the cookbook. Then asks, do you still love them? There. For the first time. Directly. Maybe your soulmate has never discussed this with her. They look at the table. Then, yes. Beloved. Mother becomes quiet. Do they know? I don't know. Do you talk? Maybe rarely. Maybe not at all. Perhaps soulmate says, no, then mother asks, are you going to call them now? Beloved. Your soulmate pauses. Years ago, maybe mother would have been the person giving advice. Today your soulmate understands this is their decision. They say, I don't know if contacting them is fair. Mother looks at the cookbook. Then, do you want to? Yes. Then why wouldn't it be fair? Your soulmate answers, because wanting someone doesn't mean I have a right to interrupt the life they built after me. Beloved. Growth. Perhaps mother nods. Then says, that sounds more like the person they were trying to love. Ouch. Your soulmate almost laughs sadly. Maybe, I'm late. Mother replies, late and impossible are different things. Then immediately, but don't turn that into hope they owe you. Beloved. Perhaps your soulmate looks surprised. Mother learned quickly. She says, they may be happy without you. Yes. They may forgive you and still not want you. Yes. They may not answer. I know. Then she places a hand on the cookbook. But this part is not theirs to fix. What? The story I believed about them. Pause. Beloved. Mother says, you need to fix that because you made it wrong. There. Perhaps your soulmate nods. I know. Then mother asks, can I apologize? Interesting. Your soulmate does not immediately volunteer you. They say, let me ask whether they even want contact. Good. Mother nods. Maybe, tell them there is no pressure. I will. But beloved, your soulmate does not message you immediately. Because there is another realization. If they contact you while emotional from mother's tears, perhaps they risk turning the conversation into another dramatic reunion attempt. So they wait. Maybe one day. Maybe several. They think about what they actually need to say. No, my mother cried over you. Come back. That would be emotional pressure. No. The message must be about responsibility. Eventually your phone lights up. Perhaps after a long time. I told my mother something about you this week that I should have told her years ago. Beloved. You stare. Maybe respond, what? Your soulmate writes, she thought you returned the cookbook because you didn't want it. Your chest tightens. You remember. Maybe you respond, you asked me to return it. Your soulmate answers, I know. Pause. I finally told her. Beloved. Perhaps a strange emotion hits. Anger. Relief. Sadness. You ask, why did she think I returned it on my own? Your soulmate could hide. Instead, because I told her you gave it back and I didn't tell her I asked you to. There. You become furious. Maybe, you let her think I rejected her. Yes. Why? Your soulmate writes, because if she knew the truth, she would have known I was the one removing you from the future. Beloved. Silence. Then perhaps, I'm sorry. You stare at the message. Maybe remember the mother becoming colder. Family gatherings. The weird distance. Perhaps pieces connect. You ask, is that why she changed toward me? Your soulmate thinks. I can't know everything she felt. Pause. But I think it affected how she understood you near the end. Beloved. Your anger grows. Did you ever plan to tell me? Your soulmate responds, no, then corrects, I told myself I would someday. Pause. But that is just another way of saying I kept avoiding it. Good. Perhaps you say, I loved that book. Your soulmate reads. Maybe tears. I know. No, you don't. You type, I felt like she was telling me I had a place. Pause. And when you asked for it back, I understood exactly what you were really taking away. Beloved. Your soulmate sits with that. Then, I understand now. Perhaps you say, I never finished that recipe. Your soulmate answers, I know. Then, she found the page. Beloved. Your heart stops. What? Your soulmate explains. Version 3. Almost right. Try again Sunday. Maybe you remember writing it. You ask, was she upset? Your soulmate replies, she cried. There. Perhaps, why? Your soulmate sends, because she realized you had been planning to come back. Beloved. That line hurts. Not forever. Not marriage. Just Sunday. A simple next Sunday. You had assumed there would be another family meal. Another chance to get the recipe right. You had imagined continuity. And the mother saw it in pencil. Maybe your soulmate writes, she said she spent years thinking she welcomed someone who didn't want to belong. Pause. I told her you did. Beloved. You become still. Then maybe, she asked whether she had done something wrong. I told her you liked her. Perhaps tears. You answer, I did. Your soulmate's heart breaks. Maybe you continue, I was terrified she hated me at the end. Your soulmate stops. What? Because she became different around me. Beloved. There is another consequence they never saw. Perhaps your soulmate says, I'm sorry. You respond, she didn't even know. No, then, I made both of you interpret each other's behavior through something I was hiding. Beloved. There. That is the accountability. Maybe you ask, what did you tell her about why we ended? Your soulmate thinks. Then, not enough. Perhaps, I always said we wanted different things. You reply, that's convenient. Yes. Beloved. Maybe your soulmate says, I told her more this time. Not private details that belong to you. But I told her I started dismantling parts of the relationship whenever the future felt too real. Pause. I told her you were not the one rejecting the family. There. You may feel relief you never expected to need. Because beloved, sometimes after relationships end, we grieve not only the person. We grieve the people around them. Their mother. Their sibling. Their kitchen. The chair you always sat in. The stupid joke made every Sunday. The familiar sound of someone saying, eat more. Maybe you had loved pieces of that family independently. And when everything ended, you lost all of it at once. Perhaps you thought they were relieved you were gone. Today, you discover at least one person had not understood what happened at all. Maybe you ask, what does she want now? Your soulmate answers carefully. She asked whether she could apologize. Beloved. You become quiet. Then, I told her I would ask you first. Good. You think. Maybe you say, for what? Your soulmate explains, for believing you returned the book to reject her. For becoming colder because she thought you were leaving the family before the relationship officially ended. Perhaps, she says she wishes she had asked you directly. Beloved. Maybe you decide, okay. One message. No dramatic family reunion. Your soulmate tells mother. Later, perhaps you receive, I learned something recently that I should have known years ago. I thought you returned something I gave you because you no longer wanted any part of us. I know now that was not what happened. I'm sorry if my hurt made you feel unwelcome. You don't owe me a response. Beloved. Maybe you cry. Not because you suddenly want everything back. Because there was a wound inside you that had never received language. Perhaps you answer, I loved the book. Pause. And I loved being at your table. The mother reads. Cries again. Maybe responds, I know that now. Then, for what it's worth, version 3 needed more spice. Beloved. You laugh through tears. Years collapse. Perhaps you reply, I knew you'd say that. A small moment. Nothing more required. But then maybe mother does something interesting. She tells your soulmate, don't use my apology as a bridge back to them. Beloved. Your soulmate looks at her. What? She says, this is between me and them. Pause. If you want a relationship with them, build your own bridge. There. Good. Your soulmate understands. They cannot say, Mom misses you. Mom cried. Mom wants you back in the family. No. That would turn mother's emotion into pressure. So if your soulmate eventually asks you to talk, they do it separately. Perhaps, there is something I want to ask that has nothing to do with what my mother wants. You know where this is going. What? Would you be open to seeing me? Beloved. Maybe you hesitate. Why? Your soulmate answers, because I still care about you. Pause. And because I think I finally understand part of what made you stop feeling safe with me. Maybe, but if the answer is no, I will not make my mother's feelings your responsibility. Beloved. That matters. Perhaps you say yes to one conversation. You meet. No family. No cookbook. Just you and them. Your soulmate apologizes. Maybe, I realized I had a habit of removing symbols of commitment whenever fear increased. You listen. They continue, I thought if fewer parts of my life included you, losing you would hurt less. Pause. Instead, I made you experience being lost before you were gone. Beloved. That is the truth. Perhaps you say, exactly. Your soulmate becomes emotional. Maybe because after years, one word tells them they finally understand. You say, you took the book. You stopped planning. You asked me to come to fewer family things. You became vague about holidays. Pause. Every time I felt more committed, you made my place smaller. Your soulmate says, I know. Then, I'm sorry. Maybe you ask, why didn't you just leave earlier? Your soulmate thinks. Then, because I loved you. Pause. And because I wanted to keep you while reducing how much power losing you had over me. Beloved. Honest. Maybe, I didn't understand that those goals contradicted each other. There. You cannot keep someone fully while making their place smaller. Perhaps you say, I spent so much time trying to prove I wasn't rushing you. Your soulmate looks down. I know. I told myself if I became easier, you'd stop being afraid. I'm sorry. Then, my fear was not something you could love perfectly enough to remove. Beloved. There. Perhaps that is what your soulmate finally learned. Maybe months later you slowly rebuild. Or perhaps you decide not to. Either ending can be healthy. But if you do explore again, beloved, the repair cannot be symbolic. The mother crying is not proof. The cookbook is not destiny. What matters is whether your soulmate behaves differently when the future becomes real again. Maybe one day you make plans 3 months ahead. Your soulmate feels the old panic. This time they do not cancel the plan. They say, "I noticed something." What? Planning this far ahead made me anxious. Your body becomes tense. But they continue, "It doesn't mean I don't want the plan." Pause. It means commitment still activates something in me, and I want to talk instead of removing you from the future until the anxiety stops. Beloved. They're different. Maybe another family dinner happens eventually. If you want. The mother sees you. For 1 second, everyone feels the history. Then she hugs you. Perhaps not too long. No giant speech. At dinner, she serves something. You taste it. She watches. Well? You say, "Need salt." Beloved. She points at you. After what you did to the first recipe? Everyone laughs. Maybe your soulmate looks at you. You look back. A normal moment. Then perhaps after dinner, the mother brings out the cookbook. I kept it. Beloved. You touch the cover. All the old feelings. She opens to version 3. Then hands you a pencil. You never finished. Beloved. Your soulmate's expression changes. But this time they do not panic at what the moment represents. They do something important. Nothing. They do not decide for you. Do not say, "Finish it." Do not say, "See? You're part of the family again." They let the choice be yours. You look at the page. Maybe smile. Then say, "I think version 3 is retired." Mother laughs. Probably wise. Perhaps you turn to a clean page. Maybe. And write, version 4. Or maybe you close the book. Either answer belongs to you. Beloved. That is the difference. No symbol should assign you a future. No family member's tears should decide your relationship. No old love should become an obligation. But perhaps there is something healing in knowing the truth. Your soulmate's mother did not cry because she discovered some secret destiny. She cried because she realized that for years she had believed you had rejected something you had actually treasured. She thought you had returned her invitation to belong. The truth? You had been asked to give it back. And beloved, your soulmate finally admitted that. Perhaps their mother asked one last question during that first conversation: if they had kept the book, would it have changed anything? Your soulmate thought. Then shook their head. No, then why take it? Beloved. Your soulmate looked at the unfinished page. And finally answered, because I thought if I removed enough evidence of the future, I wouldn't have to make a decision about it. Pause. But they understood exactly what I was doing. Maybe their mother says, "Of course they did." Then, you said they knew you better than anyone. Your soulmate smiles sadly. They did. The mother asks, "And now?" "Beloved." Your soulmate looks at the cookbook. Then perhaps says, "Now I'm trying to become someone who doesn't punish people for knowing me." There. Maybe that is the real confession. Your soulmate once loved how deeply you understood them, until your understanding touched their fear. Then they began reducing your place instead of confronting themselves. Today, for the first time, they told their mother the whole truth. You did not reject her. You did not casually throw away something meaningful. You did not decide her family was beneath you. You did not return the book because you never imagined a future there. The exact opposite may have been true. You had already started writing yourself into the blank pages. Testing recipes. Making corrections. Assuming there would be another Sunday. Beloved, their mother cried because she saw your unfinished handwriting and realized something painfully simple: you had expected to come back. And her child had been the one quietly preparing for you not to. Perhaps that is why the person you love is thinking about you differently tonight. Because once they told the truth aloud, they could finally see the breakup from another angle. They did not lose someone who refused to become part of their life. They lost someone who had begun becoming part of it, and kept getting asked to step backward every time that belonging became too real. And if your soulmate ever comes toward you again, beloved, there is only one question that matters: not, "Does their mother miss me?" Not, "Did she cry?" Not even, "Does my soulmate still love me?" Ask, when I begin to have a real place in your life again, will you protect that place when fear returns, or will you slowly start asking me to give it back? Because this time, your soulmate finally knows exactly what their answer has to look like. Not a promise. Not a speech. Behavior. Consistency. The courage to let love become real without dismantling it whenever reality becomes frightening. And perhaps someday, if there is another blank page between you, your soulmate will finally understand: love is not proven by writing your name into somebody's future. It is proven by not erasing their place every time having something real gives you something real to lose.